Hello, 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 and welcome to By the Fifth Podcast. It's your boy, Roger Trent. But of course, you already know, you can call me Tico. To all my maintenance technicians and supervisors, what have you, property managers, leasing consultants, I want you to imagine walking into an apartment to do a wellness check, or maybe change the filters or due diligence. And you open the door and you smell something foreign, something different. Your senses start to kick in and something says, this is weird. Something's not right. And you happen to look over into the little dining room area and you see a tail, a very big tail. You know it's not a snake. And as your eyes begin to scan the body, you realize it's a tiger. But there's no tigers in apartments. Like, your mind is going through this whirlwind of questions and trying to figure out what's happening. And as soon as you almost process that, you happen to look over in the other corner and there's a 10-foot alligator. Well, before you crap your pants and run out the door, you realized something different is happening, or you are dreaming. Well, today, this is no dream. This is an actual story. Today, I'm speaking with Antoine Yates. And as you'll learn, Antoine is a very, very smart, self-taught man with a love like none other for animals. He didn't want to be videotaped, so today will be a little bit different. We will not have video of him talking, but I want you to listen to this. I want you to go in with him and understand the person, why he would do this, what would make him do this, and why does he have such a love for these animals. Check it out. This is our episode entitled Hear Me Roar. Yeah. Remember, subscribe, like, and tell a friend. Let's get into it. We are talking about the man, the legend, Antoine Yates. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Antoine. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Awesome. Man, let me tell you, I am just so excited by you being on our podcast today. I have been a fan of this story for I can't tell you how long.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much about that. I like to be an inspiration whenever I can.
Yes, absolutely. I just, I've always been just amazed by these beautiful animals. And then to see that you actually, had one, that you lived with one, that you raised one. I just thought that was so amazing. And I said, man, how awesome would it be to talk to this brother who actually lived it? Not too many people will get that chance to actually live like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a unique opportunity, and I was blessed to be able to have that experience and, share my passion. And the experience was beautiful. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, oh, I can imagine, man. So tell me this, what sparked your curiosity for the love of these animals? I mean, from the get-go, start from the beginning. What got you into these, loving these beautiful animals?
It was natural. I figure I was born with it because I started raising animals at 3 years old. Um,
Wow.
yeah, I started with teddy bear hamsters. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Woolworth. It used to be an old department store before the Kmart and
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, so that's where I started. I had got some teddy bear hamsters from there. Well, my mother bought them from me because I put on a tantrum, and that's where I guess my passion really started right then and there. You know, when a child put up a tantrum, not like if you want a toy or something, I immediately gravitated towards the animals.
Wow, wow. So it sounds to me like your mom really cultivated that love that you have for animals.
Yeah, well, my mom's is a unique person in her own rights. She raised over 60 of us. So her passion,
Wow.
yeah, her passion is people. So and she kind of had a passion for animals, but not as intense as I was. But she was more of a people's person. So that's why I guess I pick up, the passion part and the dedication part.
Wow, wow. Over 60 kids. That is awesome.
Yeah, well, I make the 60th, but I have 59 siblings.
Wow. That is amazing. So I love the fact that, she wasn't like, no, no, we're not going to have any animals or stay away from that. But she really said, okay, let's see how you do with it. I mean, as a kid.
Yeah, she had one rule though. If I'm buying them, you clean up. The minute you stop cleaning up behind them is the
Hmm.
minute that I'm getting rid of them. So that was her one rule. Anything else, she kind of fed my passion.
Uh-huh.
With books, because I always like to read and study up on things. So she
Yes.
used to get me a lot of plant books, a lot of animal books. Um, I don't know if you remember, there used to be like encyclopedias.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was 28 to 30 something volumes, and she went and bought the whole volume.
Wow. Like what's it called? Britannica?
Yes, yes, they was all
Yeah.
like a beige and brown.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So I used to constantly study those from A to Z, and then they had two big dictionaries, so you can do your resource work from that. So I grew up really dedicating myself and reading a lot of the encyclopedia. And once I started getting into that, I started getting heavily into zoology and herpetology. So I'm autodidactable, which means I educated myself in a lot of different things.
And I thought, that really blew my mind when I was, researching your story. And I said, wow, this guy is really smart. He really knows what he's doing when it comes to these animals. How did you progress from, your first pet to something, bigger? What was your next pet?
Well, what happened was a couple of years have passed, and one of my hamsters died. And it really, that's the first time I experienced death. And it
Mm.
really kind of messed me up a bit.
Hmm.
So I had made a vow to myself that I would never lose something because I didn't know how to take care of it properly. So that's where
Mm.
I like, because when you have a passion or a love for something, that's part of a foundation. It's not the full foundation, it's just a part. Because you can have people that love animals,
Hmm.
right? And attempt to do it and fail. Just like
Yes.
buying a puppy. You see a beautiful puppy in the store, you go get him,
Hmm.
and you don't realize as time go on, you got to have a lot of dedication. You got to get up every morning, sometimes walk them 3 times a day, feed them sometimes, vet, and a lot of
Yes.
people fail at that. So my determination and passion is just a second to none, and that helped me a lot. So after I started getting out of hamsters and guinea pigs and rabbits, I started to get into reptiles. Yeah, like snakes, lizards, turtles. And it just started growing and growing. So by the time I was 12 years old, I was already into monkeys and primates.
Wow. Wow. Now, were you just studying monkeys at that time or did you
No,
have
no,
access to monkeys?
no, I actually had monkeys. Now, a lot of people don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, like way back in the days, it was so easy to get monkeys. Actually, they used to sell monkeys in back of comic books, like
Oh, you gotta be
squirrel.
kidding me.
Yeah, no, no, for real. The world changed, so it's to hear it now, you be like, oh, you no way, because we didn't have
Yeah.
internet. Do you understand? We didn't have internet, so every
Uh-huh.
resource was marketing through what people gravitated toward. So they'll put their little
Yes.
classify ads, like they used to sell sea monkeys and seahorses.
Okay.
Yeah, so they also had monkeys in there coming from South America.
Wow. So you actually owned a monkey. Like, what was that like your first time when you first got your first monkey? What was that like?
I raised three monkeys. The first one was my most intimate one because we grew up together, and that was a
Okay.
chimpanzee. And we had to get rid of her. We had her for about, I think, about 7 to 8 years.
Hmm.
And one day we all went out, and she managed to get out the window and went into the rent office and tore amok of the management office. She ran amok and ran back into the window, so they seen where she went. And eventually, we had an ultimatum: get rid of the monkey, or So, and that hurted me a lot. So as time went on, my mother downsized the monkey. Instead of getting me a chimpanzee, she bought me squirrel monkeys, which is much smaller.
So I'm sorry. Let's go back to this for a second. The monkey got into the rental office and just started tearing up.
Yeah, it's like the management office where you go down and pay your rent, or you got complaints, because we lived in public housing as well back then. And her name was Sheila, and she managed to get out the window, ran into the rent office, and ran amok in there, and ran back in. So by the time we came home, we didn't really know what was going on, but we could see a bunch of people outside and waiting for the door. So as we went in, they explained what had took place.
Wow. Wow. Oh my gosh. I can only imagine that manager's face when the monkey came in here. Did she know that you already had it or it was a total surprise?
No, 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 they never knew.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a surprise to everybody.
Wow. Wow. Oh my God. So you downsized from there. Your mom said, that's a little too much. Let's take it back a notch.
Yeah, and mind you, I'm not even in my teens yet. I'm like barely almost about to hit my teens. So I'm still young, and I really don't know what the world is about yet. You know what I mean? As
Yeah.
far as,
Yes.
the general public and people and their deceptions about you and what you can have and what you can't have. So,
Yes.
I wasn't really, familiar to the world. But that was my first awakening, about learning more and more about responsibilities.
Okay. Now, was this at the time of the uh, inception of hip hop? Was this when everything started going on with hip hop during this time?
Not yet, not yet, not yet. Uh-uh.
Okay.
Not
Okay.
yet. We are still literally maybe late 70s going into the early 80s maybe. So not quite as yet. Because I
Okay.
because when hip hop had started, I was already into bigger animals, and I was more in tune with myself. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
And I knew how the world worked around that time. So right now I'm still innocent.
Okay, okay. So you're learning this. You're reading encyclopedias. You're raising monkeys. You have reptiles. You're learning all of this. As you begin to mature in your teenage years, and you're coming up to graduation in high school. Are you thinking at this time of starting a zoo? What's on your mind at this point?
Okay, it's funny you mention that because I kind of went through life backwards from your typical child. So I was learning more about the world and spirituality and ancient cultures before I learned about being a product of my environment. Do you see what I'm saying? So,
Yes, yes,
so the world had already expanded to me. So anything up close around me was like a sore eye. Do you know what I mean? Because I realized
yes.
how big the world was. So it kind of played a mental trick on me, sort of. And I tell you about that later on as the conversation goes. But the more I started to get older and the more peer pressure I had around me coming from friends and everything, that's when I started to embrace my surroundings and my culture.
What type of peer pressure were you having at that time?
Oh my God. Well, you had everything in the world to come at you. You had, because back then there was a really destructive environment, totally different from right now. So basically, if you walked outside your door, you seen dope fiends. A lot of people don't know what a dope fiend look like. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, oh yeah. Yes.
So when you walking out your door, this the only thing I've seen. And we had abundance abandoned buildings, totally different from now. So peer pressure came from hanging out, wanting to get money, female. So all these things started to come into play now. So you have an innocent child that's a blank canvas and you could just paint anything on it and this is what you can manipulate it to be. So now I'm in a tug of war of, what I have learned and what I have gained, which is all book smarts at that point. A little bit of hands-on, but only when it came to animal and plants. That's where my hands-on experience came in, and that's what actually kept me out of trouble a lot as well. So a lot of the peer pressure, I seen it, but I was able to say, nah, that's not for me on certain things. But when it
Yes.
started coming into being independent and having my own money, buying my own animals, that's where the peer pressure came in. Because now I wanted money. You see what I'm saying? I wanted bigger animals. I wanted my animals to be happy as well as I
Yes.
am. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So you really started to take interest into these bigger animals, and as you begin to have the funds to be able to support it. When did the idea come that, hey, let's do something big. Let's have a zoo. When did that idea take place? This episode is being brought to you by Apartment Community Functions. If you need an event for your apartment, let us know. We can handle it. After all, we evented it. Look us up on apartmentcommunityfunctions.com. All right, getting back to our episode with Antoine Yates. We've seen him go from hamster to monkeys to the desire for much larger animals. Let's see how he navigates through peer pressure and an environment that could be somewhat challenging at times.
In my later years, right before I got Ming and Al, no, I had Al already, but right before Ming, between Ming, Jabba, and Nemo. So Nemo and Jabba was two lions I had. So a lot of people don't know that I had that as well. Few articles there is about it. But right before Ming, I was actually at that point, I was how can I say it? Double personalities. So I was that person out in the streets. I hate to reflect on this part because this is the negative half of me.
Okay,
And
okay.
I'm not ashamed of it because this is something I had to go through in order to make me who I am today, which in my eyes and heart is a better person.
Yes.
But at that time, I was indulging in, selling drugs, being out with everybody, just living your typical Average. I wouldn't say average, but selling drugs and everything. So one day, but I always kept my sense about myself. I always kept my personality. I always kept my heart and mind as well. So a lot of people that I had interactions with, as far as like selling drugs and everything, I also developed a relationship and respect with, no matter who
Okay.
you were. You know what I mean? So I
Yes.
had taken a liking to one of my customers' two daughters. She had twins. And at that time, I was saying, wow, these girls can sing like birds. So I said, I'm going to start a label just for them. And this is what I was doing. Every day used to come up. I give them money. I make sure they were straight. So one day her mother came with the kids and she had asked to buy drugs from me in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I caught an epiphany and I gagged and almost threw up. And I was like,
Mm.
no, I can't do this no more. Do you know what I mean? So as I told her no, she went over to my friends and she copped and I'm looking at her. And as she walked off, I was like, I'm done. So, and the corner was crowded because I lived on a block where a lot of us hung on the corner, just
Mm-hmm.
like, your average Harlem and back in the days.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
walked off and a friend of mine was like, hey, where you going? I was like, I'm done with this. I'm not doing this no more. So I literally went upstairs. I looked into the mirror, took a long look in the mirror, started taking all my jewelry and stuff off, placing it in the boxes and pushing them under the bed. And I watched TV that night and Animal Planet.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you know what? I know what I'm going to do. So I went up the next day. I got on the phone and I called up a realtor, trying to remember the names of the realtor, but I have the paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was inquiring about land, and I went up and visited the land like 2 weeks later and put a down payment on. So if you look through the articles, that you can see that I
Mm-hmm.
went and purchased property up in Sullivan County, and that's when I was going to build a sanctuary. It wasn't even a zoo yet. A zoo came around later on after they took me, but
Okay.
before me, it was about me building a sanctuary.
It's amazing because here's this smart young man, extremely smart, well studied, but as a product of your environment, you started to go off into the drug scene with the pressure and just being in that environment. But that moment with that young lady was almost like a, as they would say, come to Jesus moment for you, right? So that you actually looked at yourself and said, you know what, this ain't for me. I need to go another route.
Yeah, but, it was things that led up to that because you always get signs, and it's all and all signs depends on how do we look at them
Hmm.
and are we paying attention. Just like crossing the street, if you're not looking at the green light and you walk straight out,
Hmm.
you're liable to get hit.
Yes.
Unless, it says stop and you know to stop. But if you're not paying attention, you walk straight out in the street.
Hmm.
So signs come at you, you're just not paying attention to them. I was just fortunate enough to be able to see things that's around me. So looking at this, I was like, nah, I can't do this no more. This ain't
Hmm.
right. It
Mm.
ain't right. Now, I'm doing good things with it.
Hmm.
Now, don't get me wrong. It's like a hunter. If I'm hunting and I'm killing and I'm going home to feed my family with these animals I killed, then kind of that's a pass rather than me just doing it for sport.
Yes.
It's two different things.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So I can almost respect a person that's doing drug dealing, not because they have to, but because they need to survive, because they need to provide. You know what I
Mm.
mean? So I can barely
Yes.
give a person a pass for that.
Okay, wow, wow. So then ironically, you're watching Animal Planet and you go ahead and you take the step of calling the realtor. I mean, that's amazing in itself that you said, you know what? Let's go ahead and pull the plug on this. Let's make it happen. You know what I mean? Like you didn't wait on it. You went ahead and went to work.
Yeah, well, that's one thing about me. Now, I actually slipped later on in life,
Mhm.
but one thing about me growing up as a child, and I hold it all the way to today, that as long as I live in this lifetime, I refuse to be doing something that somebody forced me to do or manipulate me to do. I want to live
Mm.
this life the way I want to live it, as long as I'm doing it fruitful and I'm
Yes.
multiplying and I'm staying positive. You know what I mean? Now,
Yes.
some
Yes.
people are going to look down on you no matter what you do. So even if I didn't raise a tiger and I did something else,
Mm-hmm.
I'm still labeled. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes.
So I'd rather be labeled and doing something I love to do. I have no regrets at that point.
And so, just for our audience who doesn't know the difference, what is the difference between a sanctuary and a zoo?
Ooh, big difference. And to me, and I hate to say this, but I'm a realist. A lot of them are corrupt. Especially when you come to
Mm-hmm.
sanctuaries, because a lot of people that's in sanctuaries now and they fighting for, oh, it's wrong to keep exotic animals or this and that. A lot of them used to be animal dealers. Just
Mm.
when the government started cracking down, they found strategic ways to be able to keep their animals, and now they shift and say, oh, well, I'm a sanctuary, and now they'll tell the next person, oh, it's wrong to have an animal. There's a perfect lady when they made the Animal King,
Mm-hmm.
the young lady who was now fighting for exotic animal ship to be
Mm-hmm.
banned. She used to be an animal dealer herself.
Oh, on Tiger King.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So she bashing him, but at the same time, if you check her records and history, this is what she used to do herself. And
Wow.
then and then on the flip side, instead of everybody going against each other, why not come together and fight for a better cause? Okay, if you're saying it's wrong to do this, why haven't you created a program to educate people that already have them in existence? Do you see what
Mm.
I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
It's smoke and mirrors.
Wow.
So let me ask you a question. The difference is one is profitable and one is not. That's the only difference.
Okay. 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 So being the zoo is for profit and the sanctuary is nonprofit.
Yeah, because if you break them down, they both all do the same thing. Actually, a zoo does a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
than a sanctuary. A sanctuary relies on donations or grants. A zoo is making their money to do what they got to do.
Okay. Okay. So how did you go about, because you got the two lions and all this happen at the same time? Like you got, your tiger, your lions and everything for the sanctuary. Did all that happen at the same time?
No, I actually didn't buy them for the sanctuary. I
Oh,
actually bought them for me. It's actually was a challenge to my capabilities. I know that sounds a little weird, but
uh-huh.
like I said, I raised so many different animals, and it's not just raising them. It's about building a bond and relationship, because
Mm,
that's when it's meaningful to me. I'm not a type of person where I want to get a lion, a tiger, or a dog, or a bear, and feel like I'm the dominant species in that.
hmm.
You know what I mean? Because our relationship to me is not working. But if I'm able to build a relationship based on principles and a foundation, then I did something that's almost hard to create.
Mm,
And that's evidence to show that you had a young man, I'm quoting my fingers, who's uneducated,
hmm.
who's black, who live in a ghetto,
Hmm.
was able to raise a tiger. Probably he one of the best kept tigers in captivity.
Yes, yes. And I want to talk about that later because that was one thing that I noticed that stood out, that the officer was quoted for saying about how good that tiger was kept. But you got the lions for yourself. And so you're raising these two lions. Are you doing this at home, at your apartment, or?
I did everything at home. Everything I did was in closed confinement. And I know a lot of people out there saying that's wrong. But like I said, smoke and mirrors, and that's what the world is based on.
Hmm.
Because if I have a tiger inside the apartment,
Hmm.
right? And there's a zoo that has a tiger inside an enclosure, right?
Hmm.
More people will favor that tiger in the zoo and say that tiger in the apartment is wrong.
Right.
Granted, granted, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, now let me explain something to you real carefully. Have you ever seen a bird in a cage?
Yes.
Is that wrong?
Yes. Or no.
Have you ever seen a fish in a fish tank?
Right. Yes.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So both of us are wrong if that's the case. You know what I'm saying? And then you can't look and say, oh, well, they should be in the wild because you can't even find any wild places anymore.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying? How contradicting
Wow.
everything is. Everything is
Yes.
smoke and mirrors. So my thing is, if you're doing something at the best of your abilities and you're not harming anybody, I'm not saying go out and have a tiger in your apartment because I'm not an advocate of that,
Right.
right?
Right.
But I am an advocate. If that's what you choose to do, be great at doing it. Do it the right way, meaning that you're protecting not only the general public and the animals and yourself, but you're able to have a better understanding of where you're gonna go with it.
Okay. 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 Wow. Wow. That is well put. Now I'm looking at, I could see that you had a really strong bond with Ming, which was your tiger. Is that right? That was his name, Ming?
Yes.
Okay, so it seemed like you had a really strong bond. What happened to where you ended up just having Ming, or did you keep the lions too, or was there a split there where you just ended up with just Ming?
I I'm gonna have to hold on that conversation because there's something I'm working on that
Okay, okay,
okay, but I will give you a little bit because I don't want to leave you or anybody else scratching their head about that.
okay, okay.
Um, at that time of me having Ming, that's where my focus was just on him and Al because I was preparing myself to move.
I'm sorry, just for our audience, who is L?
Al was my alligator.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, because at the time of them coming in, I had a 10-foot alligator along with a 500-pound tiger. So basically, those was the two I was concentrating on, and a rabbit at
Okay,
that given
okay.
time. And everything was free roaming. There wasn't no cages or anything like that. Everything was in harmony.
Well, that's all the time we have for this episode. But tune in next episode as we continue our conversation with Antoine Yates.
He bit down on my neck, but he didn't punch me. He grabbed my neck and paused, and I could feel his breath like on my throat.
Remember to like, subscribe, and share with a friend. Tell them about By the Fifth Podcast. We look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great day, and God bless. The name is Trent, Roger Trent, but you can call me Tico. What's up?